The case of E.T. from Varginha, the Brazilian Roswell. Around 3:30 p.m. on January 20, 1996, two sisters and a friend were cutting across a vacant lot when they came across something that would be a strange being, short, frail, with a disproportionate head, large red eyes without pupil and iris. On the skull, 3 protuberances. Apparently frightened, the creature would have bulging veins on its shoulders. Thus, they described the contact with the legendary E.T. from Varginha, a character in the episode that helped consolidate the figure of E.T. in the Brazilian imagination and still raises many doubts. Truth or lie? There are 2 versions in play, the Army's official denial and the contestation by ufologists and witnesses who attest to having seen, at the time, unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and extraterrestrial beings in the region of Sul de Minas. The episode mobilized not only the city of Minas Gerais, but the entire country. Recovering the chronology of the facts, a UFO would have crashed on a farm near Varginha on January 13. The wreckage would have been collected by the Army and, on January 20, another artifact releasing smoke was sighted towards the city. Afterwards, strange animals are seen near the Shadim and a neighborhood. In the afternoon of that day, the sisters Lilian and Valquiria Silva and their friend Katia Xavier would have had third-degree contact with the creature. That is, they see him up close and, scared, run away. The city entered a state of euphoria. Police, fire department and army would have captured 2 creatures. One of them passes through hospitals and dies. Afterwards, 2 suspicious loads are taken to Campinas, SP. The tragic outcome would be the death of police officer Marco Eli Cheriz from generalized infection, who supposedly captured one of the creatures without any kind of protection. And so, the famous story of the Varginha E.T. is born. Far from a verdict, the Varginha E.T. became an international subject and motivated tourism in the city of Minas Gerais. Luiz Henrique Junqueira, from Parana, moved to Varginha in the 1980s. In 1996, at the age of 25, he witnessed hysteria in Loco. On the day, there was chaos in the city, full of army. But the case was well hushed up by the armed forces and the government, he recalls. For Luiz Henrique, the lack of transparency about the case left an air of uncertainty in the population, which tends to believe the story. Because they hushed up the case, most believe it, but they don't, you know. In the evaluation of the resident, who has a travel agency in the city government preferred to invest in the myth of the E.T. of Varginha instead of exploring the other side. The tourist exploitation is very flawed, because if they disclosed even part of the truth, then we would have a much greater flow of tourism, he analyzes. For the businessman, the truth cited refers to the passage of UFOs and creatures through the region. The airport, bus stops and even a water tank were designed in the shape of an alien spacecraft. The city even started to build the E.T. Memorial, which is still unfinished. In addition to a greater flow of visitors, it is common to find dolls in the shape of the creature described by the 3 young women in the streets. Buildings and streets in Varginha keep the imaginary about E.T. alive. The contract manager at Varginha's Municipal Tourism Secretariat, Gleiber Piva, agrees that its marketing should have been better addressed. However, he points out that the current management of the City Hall chose not to prioritize the E.T. because, in recent times, the collection has barely covered the basic needs of the people. However, Gleiber claims that the tourism department cannot escape the theme and, therefore, they are finalizing the work on the memorial. In space, the manager reports that the proposal is to merge studies of ufology and astronomy, including the possible creation of a planetarium. We thought about establishing an interdisciplinary relationship with education, providing astronomical study material to students in the city and region. The story in detail. As the Army, the main government institution involved in the case, denies the presence of extraterrestrials and UFOs, the residents, witnesses, and ufologists are the characters who describe in detail their version of the case. Even with some differences, most websites specializing in UFOs, the term for UFOs, have some dates and events in common. On January 13, 1996, a week before the sisters Lilian and Valkyria Silva and their friend Katia Xavier met the alleged creature, the ultralight pilot Carla Souza would have seen an artifact flying over the vicinity of Varginha and accompanied it visually. At the time, the pilot claimed to have seen smoke or mist coming from the UFO. Afterwards, the object disappeared behind a hill in Myalini Farm. Reports also say that there was metallic debris being collected by military personnel. At the site, there would be trucks, helicopters, and an army ambulance. In the early hours of January 20th, the day that made history, a couple spots an artifact releasing mist and that has a damaged part in front of the fuselage. The object also disappears after the hill, towards the city. Still in the morning, the fire department would have started a search for an animal spotted by residents in the Shadim and a neighborhood. A construction worker claims to have witnessed firefighters trap the creature in a wooden box. At the site, there would again be an army truck that would have taken the box to the Escola de Sargentos das Armas, ESA, in Tres Coracos, Milligram. In press interviews at the time, both the fire department and ESA officials denied any sort of pursuit of a creature or the like. Earlier that afternoon, around 1 p.m., there are reports of the presence of men in military attire who fired rifle shots and appeared carrying 2 bags. Around 3:30 p.m., Lilian Fatima Silva, 16 years old at the time, her sister Valkyria Aparecida Silva, 14, and Katia Andrade Xavier, 22, were cutting across a vacant lot when they saw a strange being whose skin would be extremely oily, with red eyes and rounded. The creature, crouched next to the wall of a mechanical workshop, would have moved its head towards them, which got scared and fled. In the late afternoon of that D-Day, at 5:30 p.m., police officer Marco Elishariz, 23 years old, would have grabbed the creature by the arm, putting it in the back seat of the car and taking it to the regional hospital. At dawn on the 21st, the creature was reportedly transferred to the Humanitas Hospital. Lifeless, the being is placed in a troop transport truck bound for the Sergeant-at-Arms School. However, testimonials from those responsible for the hospitals at the time also denied any strange movement at the site. On January 23, an army convoy would have taken 2 loads to the city of Campinas, SP, to be researched by scientists at the State University of Campinas, Unicamp. The extraterrestrials would be in Pavilion 18 at Unicamp, information that is denied by the institution's rectory. Finally, on February 7, 1996, Marco Elishariz, the policeman who allegedly captured one of the ETs in Jardim Anda, underwent surgery to remove a pustule from his right armpit and was hospitalized with severe pain and the onset of paralysis. He died 8 days later from a generalized infection. For the ufologists, the cause would be the contact with bacteria of the being captured by him without protection. New witness reports rekindle curiosity about one of the greatest episodes in world ufology, which turns 26 this Thursday, January 20th, the Varginha ET. Almost 3 decades after the alleged appearance of an extraterrestrial that would have been seen by 3 girls and later captured by the military, the Varginha case, as it became known worldwide, seems to be far from being concluded. No, the Varginha case is not closed. I believe that in these 26 years that it is now completing, many military and civilians who were previously afraid to talk about this subject will come forward to talk about details of what happened from that January 1996 onwards, because we know that there were other developments, military operations that were carried out in the subsequent months as well, so the Varginha case is by no means closed. Who says it is researcher Edison Boaventura Jr., founder and current president of the ufological group of Guarujá, GUG, which has been researching the ufological phenomenon for over 40 years. From the beginning, he was at the forefront of the investigations of the Caso Varginha, together with the group of 7, composed of ufologists who heard witnesses and researched the case.